You might have heard this phrase, study smart, not hard, but where do you learn how to do it? In school, you learn what to learn, math, history, science, Spanish, but not so much on how to learn. It's rare to find classes on how to learn, how to think, how to remember, and how to study. In this fast-paced, ever-changing world, these are the skills that will serve you as a student, not only in school, but also in life. The things I'm going to talk about here is based in neuroscience and brain science. And so I'm going to share with you 4 things you need to stop immediately and 4 things you want to start. Number 1, I want you to stop multitasking. That's right, stop multitasking. Many of you believe that you're doing 2 things at once or 3 things at once, and you're not actually multitasking, because every single time you switch from one task to another, you have to regain your focus and your flow, and it could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So the more accurate term is not multitasking, it's actually called task switching. But it takes more time, it's less productive, and there's more errors. There was a study done at University of London saying it can even lower your IQ. Multitasking or attempting to multitask can even lower your IQ, similar that if you stayed up to all night. If you stayed up all night, it could actually drop up to 15 points. So I want you to do one single mental thing at a time. So stop multitasking. The second thing I'm going to ask you to stop is I want you to stop and eliminate distractions. In order for you to soar to the head of your class, you must focus. So turn your phone off, put it on airplane mode, put it in another room if you will. You could also use self-control apps if you're going to have your phone there, like Freedom or Focus Me, to block certain websites like Facebook or Twitter. Or you could even block everything except for the sites you need for your work. Number 3, I want you to stop cramming. Stop cramming. Many people don't study for days or weeks, and then they'll pull an all-nighter. They'll go 6 or 7 hours straight, which is really bad because you need sleep. That's where you consolidate short to long-term memory. But the big mistake that students are making that I see over and over again is they study for too long a period without taking breaks. You heard me right. It's important to take breaks. We know you study better when you study in chunks. Your retention diminishes after about 25 or 30 minutes. There's a time management method called the Pomodoro technique where you set a timer to break for your work into intervals traditionally about 25 or 30 minutes. And then you take about a 2 to 3 or 4, maybe a 5-minute break to stretch, to breathe, to hydrate, and so on. Remember, as your body moves, your brain grooves. It also takes advantage of 2 very important memory principles that we teach in quick recall. It's called primacy and recency. Primacy says you tend to remember something in the beginning. Recency says you tend to remember stuff towards the end. Meaning that if I gave you a list of 30 words and you didn't have some of these memory techniques, you'd probably remember the words in the beginning, primacy, and the words towards the end, which are more recent, or recency. So what happens is if you study for 6 hours straight with no breaks, you remember the information towards the beginning and towards the end, but there's a huge dip in between for all that time. And the benefit of taking breaks every 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever you choose to break, is you create more beginnings and more ends, so you can recover a lot of that information. The 4th thing I'm going to ask you to stop is to hack this thing called acrasia. And now this is the state of acting against your own better judgment. And Socrates was said to have asked precisely, how is it possible that if one judges action A to be the best course of action, why would anyone do anything other than A? Right? You want to major in the major things and focusing on the 80-20 rule, right? Pareto's principle. Focus on the 20% of the things that give you 80% of the results or the rewards. And the challenge is a lot of people can't stick with a course of behavior. So I would recommend apps like Stick or BeMinder, which helps you to keep your commitments. Now, I'm going to rapid fire give you the 4 things that you want to start. You want to start these 4 things. So number 1, I want you to practice what we call active recall. I actually don't recommend you reread textbook chapters over and over and over again. That's what most people do through rote repetition, because you could delude yourself that you know the information that you're reading instead of really testing yourself. I'd rather you close the book and recall and recite all that you could remember, because there's a difference between recognition and recollection. There's a big difference between recognition and recollection. Many times when you're rereading that chapter over again, you actually delude yourself thinking that you remember this information when you're really just recognizing it in front of you. Because recognizing requires a trigger for you to remember something, and you may not get that on a test. You probably very well likely get that on a test. So study actively with a focus on recollection and quiz yourself. Don't just glance over your notes, your highlighted notes. Number 2, I would say, is start doing spaced repetition. Basically what this is saying is you want to be able to space out your studying into intervals like you could your body when you're working it out. And separating the information, reviewing it through intervals, like maybe reviewing it an hour later, a day later, a week later, a few weeks later, helps to take it from your short-term to your long-term memory. And if you want software, many of you are very digital, that could help you accelerate that. There's a free software program called Anki. And it's like online flashcards, but they break it up into spaced repetition. So it makes it very straightforward on how to learn a language. Studying for medical or law exams, we use this kind of spaced repetition for memorizing people's names or faces, brushing up on your geography, mastering long poems, word for word verbatim, even practicing musical instruments like guitar chords. It helps having spaced repetition. Number 3 thing to start is using your sense of smell. Using your sense of smell. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that your environment gets anchored to the information that you're learning. And so you can't always bring the environment into the place. So it's obviously better to study in the room that you're going to take the exam in, because you're unconsciously going to anchor that to the temperature, to the lighting, to the smells. All of that will get anchored to the information. But we can't always do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the environment in there with you. And one of the most powerful ways of doing that, actually most connected for your memory out of your senses, is your sense of smell, your olfactory sense. And so spraying an unfamiliar scent onto your body, maybe it could be an essential oil, a lip balm, a chewing gum. It's a very unique flavor or scent. It could be a perfume or a cologne. While you're doing that while you're studying, then you actually put it back on when you need to be able to basically spray it again when you need to take an exam. And so the same thing could work with a different kind of unique kind of gum, will work the same way. Also, there's certain scents, for example, essential oils that actually stimulate and wake up the mind. Peppermint is very good for your focus of your senses, to improve your memory. Rosemary is really good for your memory also as well. So try tapping into your sense of smell. And then finally, number 4 thing to start doing is to listen to music. And not music that would distract you, not heavy metal, not rap, but research done at Stanford School of Medicine says that playing certain types of music, like classical music, especially from the Baroque era, it's 60 beats per minute, which is also harmonizes with the resting heart rate. And that could actually help accelerate the students to engage parts of your brain to help you pay attention and make predictions. It puts you into what they call an alpha state, a brainwave state, an alpha state, where you're relaxed and aware. Not to mention, listening to music can improve your mood and change your whole outlook in studying in general.